Hi, my name is Brad Miller. I want to share my Celebrate Recovery testimony, and I think it's important that people hear this and they can find out how their life can be if they just let God work in it. You know, I had a pretty normal life. I was born in Boise, and I was adopted. I grew up with two loving parents that did the best they could do to raise me and to give me every opportunity that a kid needs. I was raised out in the country, had a big black dog, played on my motorcycle all the time, and life was normal. Played a lot of sports, every sport you could play, soccer, baseball. Never really fit in. I always felt like I was kind of an outcast. Always felt a little different than the other kids. Constantly bugged my mom to get me the new clothes, the popular clothes that people were wearing so that I might fit in better. Pretty shy when it came to talking to girls. I never really was too outgoing with that. Life was pretty normal though. I never really thought about God, thought about where He would get me, thought about anything He could do for me in life or what I could do for Him. I grew up and went through junior high and finally got to high school, and my world just really fell apart. I had been raised by two loving parents that had done their best to choose to show me right from wrong, and I kind of forgot all about that. I went to my first party at the end of my freshman year and was introduced to drinking. I didn't drink that first night because I had to go home and kiss my mom on the lips was the deal, that she'd let me go to the party if I came home and did that. Anyway, I didn't drink that first night, but I think I did about every night after that. You know, I never got the best grades in school, and after I started drinking my freshman year, they got worse, a lot worse. I managed to pass enough classes so I could stay eligible to play sports, and most of my friends were drinkers too. You know, we'd go after the game on Friday night, we'd all go out and have a cake party and get drunk, and it was kind of a passing into manhood. All of a sudden I fit in better. The girls thought I was a little more popular because I was always the guy with the beer, the guy that knew where the party was, the guy that knew what was going on. And for a guy like me that struggled to fit in, this was a welcome change. About into my sophomore year, I started smoking pot. I tried it once, didn't really get high, didn't like it, but had a go-get-em attitude and tried it again, and got wasted that time. All of a sudden it seemed right to let my hair grow out and not care so much about sports or school. Pot led to other things. It led to a new group of friends. It led to different places on a Friday night. And before long, I found myself not caring really what other people thought. I found myself not caring if I hurt property or stealing. I'm not saying that was due to the pot by itself. You know, that was partly my attitude too. Anyway, I stole a lady's purse when I was 17, ran her credit cards up, and was arrested for 11 counts of grand theft. I was sent to juvenile hall. I'd never been in trouble before. I was, a fairly good kid, kind of slid under the radar of everything. And before I knew it, I was in juvenile detention. I threw a temper tantrum in a district court, found out that's not a great idea, wound up in an observation cell for 3 days, and went to the first day of my senior year a month later with a black bracelet on my wrist, on house arrest. Threw a homecoming party that year, regardless of house arrest or not, and found myself back in a different juvenile detention facility. Finally was sent to the Idaho Youth Ranch for about a month for a diagnostic, and then was sent home. I continued to mess up, and 2 weeks later my mom and dad kicked me out. I lived at friends' houses. I broke into motel rooms and stayed there. It was winter and it was cold, and I did what I had to do. It was about this time that I found another love, and that was methamphetamine. My whole life changed at that point. Everything went downhill. It's like all of a sudden everything was on fast forward and I was on high speed all the time. I can't explain the love that I had for it. It completely engulfed me in everything about it. It ruined my life. I did meth all across this country. back and forth from the East Coast to the West Coast for a number of years. I finally came back to Boise and met a girl, settled down for a sec, and got her pregnant. We had a little girl 9 months later. I named her Mackenzie Rose Miller, and I vowed to change my life. It didn't happen. A couple weeks later, we were smoking dope again. We'd managed to stay clean while she was pregnant. I don't know how, but it wasn't but 2 weeks after Mackenzie was born that we both were using again. I never went to church. I never thought about God. Didn't figure he ever thought about me. And we left it at that. I loved my little girl. I tried my best to be a good dad. You know, she never ran around in a dirty diaper. She always had enough to eat. Had a clean house, very clean house, in fact. You know, me and her mom came to the end of our rope a couple years after she was born. With the help of a judge's restraining order, we split up, and I started doing a lot of dope. Mackenzie was taken away from me for about a month, and on weeks after that, on weeks that I didn't have her, I continued to use and sell and steal. It wasn't long after that, when she was about 2 years old, that I was arrested for burglary charge and possession charge up in Valley County, and was sentenced to a rider. But while I was in, I met a guy at a Bible study just to get out of the cell. I went to this Bible study, and there's a guy talking about this God that loved me, this God that cared for me, that forgave me of my sins, that was there for me to turn to. And I soaked it all in. I loved every word of it. I went every chance I could. I continued to read the Bible, and I got sent to a therapeutic community for 9 months. And during that time, I felt myself change. I felt myself get better. The drugs kind of came out of my system. And before long, I stopped going to church. I stopped going to Bible studies and reading the Word. After all, I was fixed. You know, I was able to do it on my own. I was completely wrong. After I was released, I promised my little girl that I'd never go back again. And that was the worst lie I ever told, because it wasn't more than 1.5 years and I was back. I had sentenced to a total of 35 years when it was said and done in the Idaho State Penitentiary. And you want to talk about a God thing, that was only 4 years ago that I was sentenced, and I've been out for 1.5 years. I was able to gain an early parole date. Excuse me. I was able to do all the programs that were offered. And a weird thing happened when I was in. I led myself through the sinner's prayer with the help of a friend of mine, and God started to replace all these black ideas and black holes in my soul, and started to fill me with hope and light and love. It was amazing. And instead of stopping going to Bible studies, I went more and more, as I continue to do this day. I was able to go to a work center and raise some money and have my own place. I was released and was reunited with my daughter over in Idaho Falls. I moved back to Boise last summer, about 1.5 years ago, and never looked back. Her mom continued to use, and I gained full custody of my daughter. We have a great relationship to this day. My mother and father trust me. They love me. They help me in anything I ask. That never would have happened. Me and my dad could never get along for more than 10 minutes. And, you know, a Bible leader that I'd hung out with told me someday that God would take me by the neck and he would turn me around and turn me to face all the wreckage that I'd committed in my past, and until I was so disgusted that I couldn't stand to look at myself anymore. And he did that. But then he showed me a place called Celebrate Recovery where I could go and find the healing that I so desired from all this life of sin. You know, my name's Brad Miller, and I'm a grateful believer. And I believe that there is a Christ out there, and that Jesus Christ died for us. And that even though he died, he is alive to this very day and is willing to help any of us that call on his name and believe in his power. Thank you.